Kalage Sundarakaram Sadaika Priyadarshanam Ajnana Nashakam Devam Sadgurum Muralidharam. Namaskaram and pranams to all our beloved friends of our Satsang. We have been meeting every month to discuss topics and themes which are very important for intelligent living, spiritual living, and of course, joyous living. And this month, we took another clipping of a series of talks based on what we think now decides our future, says Bhagavatam. In the Uttarardham, in the 10th canto of Bhagavatam, there is this wonderful half a sloka, which is so vital for us to understand how important it is, how important the quality of our thoughts now is, you see, because that decides the future. Bhavohi bhavasyata. Bhavam is our thoughts, our attitude, our perspective, our belief system. That is the cause of our future, you see. It is these two small words. One is a 3-letter word, and another one is a 4-letter word, literally. Can and will, you see. So whenever we put an effort, the mind, with all its mischief, immediately jumps to, will it yield fruits, right? When we look at it with that filter of, I'm trying something now, will it give the fruit? It immediately brings us stress. It immediately brings in a concept of time. It immediately brings in, once there is time, time means the gap between effort and result. That is spiritual time. I'm not talking about the watch time. It is immaterial to me. Spiritually, emotionally, what time is, what kala is, it is the gap which the mind imagines once it does an effort or needs to do an effort and it starts thinking about the result, then the psychological time comes in, right? The moment I am not into that thinking, I am in what is called in the Western language as flow, you see, where time seems to disappear for the time being, at least. Where I'm completely in the moment. I'm relishing what I'm doing. For example, if you are an artist and you are a singer and you are into your practice, sadhanam, I think in Hindustan it's called riyaz, isn't it? So when I am doing this practice and I'm immersed in the practice, I'm constantly focusing on what I can sing right now and not whether will what I sing bring in appreciation from the audience tomorrow. Do you see these two? So the moment will it yield the effort comes in, a psychological time comes in, and that spoils the current moment. Obviously, I can't do my practice, I can't do my sadhana properly. And I also lose the joy of singing at that very moment. So that's what I meant, time. I hope you are with me. Time comes in when I bring in a result factor along with my intention to put an effort. I'm now going to do something. Time does not come in at all. I'm not talking about chronological or biological time. I'm talking about physiological time. So my mind is completely in the moment. I'm enjoying what I'm doing. I am in the moment for 1 hour. So actually time is not there psychologically. Chronologically time is there. It's 11:10. It can become 12:10. So when I do that, I feel I loved it. I'm so happy doing it. When I read a book which I love it, I am in the current moment completely immersed in the flow of reading the book. Time does not come in at all. I'm giving you various examples to explain a little intricate concept. But the moment I'm reading a book for an exam, you see, time comes in because an effort is there. Our mind is now running towards a result. And then there is a gap, and that gap, that filling of the gap is what is called psychological time, column, you see. And the time comes in when we start telling ourselves, and to make it clear for this session, my self-talk, what I tell myself inside of me is what is called thoughts. Let's make it very simple. So thought is what I talk to myself. And it's not verbal, obviously. I talk to myself inside of me and I call it a thought. So when my self-talk or thought is rooted in this word called will I, then immediately I lose the joy, I lose the peace, I lose the flow of what I am putting as work right now. And that immediately shuts down a lot of windows for me to look at various choices, to look at various branching out, etc. And the best replacement for will is can. You see, to put it in a lighter vein, will I perform well in the next year's, say, concert is a question for an astrologer, you see. But can I perform well in the concert which is going to happen next year is a question which is practically related to me. Because a can brings in a wonderful path of possibility thinking. You get it, right? Can I do this? Yes, I can. How else can I do it? Possibility. The moment I bring in, will I be successful? Then it becomes a little closed, isn't it? And since will replace can, I don't explore all the possibilities which are possibly available to me if I have the drishti, if I have the actual openness to tell myself, can I do it? How can I do it? How else can I do it? Rather than, will I be able to do it? You see. And that's what we discussed in that stuff. Because many times, will I can paralyze us. And at times it can also make us not explore all the possibilities. At times it can jump to a conclusion, a foregone conclusion, a preconceived conclusion. I don't think it will happen. I think will is not the right question because we don't know. Anything which is related to future, I don't know. But many times what I do is, what happened in the past, that experience, that database, I try to project in future and muddle my life, you see. Because I ask, will this happen? And generally, I am asking the real, the sponsoring question is, has it happened? You see. So generally, I use the question, has it happened? To answer the question, will it happen? Right? So, will this chap perform well in the exams maybe next year? I immediately look at my experience. He has not performed well in the past few years. And now I'm forced to actually give an answer, yes or no. And generally, I want to, err on the safer side. And I would say, I don't think so. Why? Because I'm not answering a will he perform well in future. I'm answering, has he been performing in the past well? And the beauty of human life is what was need not be what can be. You see, what was is dead. What can be is still a possibility. And that's the basis of Bhagavata Dharma in a spiritual plane. So here, what was is not essentially what can be or what will be, right? And that's the whole idea of Bhagavata Dharma. Most of you know about this Ajamila Charitra. What was Ajamila is completely in contra with what Ajamila will be during that point of time, at his point of death and all that. I know you know the story. Ajamila was a person in Kanauj, Kanya Kubja. And he had a very good childhood. The first 16, 18 years was beautiful, value-based, fantastic, spiritual, divine, religious. But then he fell into bad company and then he did horrible stuff. So what he did in the past, at this point of time, I'm talking about the point of time when he's 88 years old. And the death in a living form knocked at his doors. Metaphorically, death doesn't knock. You see? Kabir Das ji in one of his wonderful dohas say that there is only one person who comes unknocked, and that is death, and doors can't stop it. So death comes And at that point of time, what he was is the actual case built up by these messengers of death. And then comes divine messengers who gives a very different, interpretation. They are talking about what can be. And these guys are saying what was. And finally, who won? What can be won. What was is death. What can be is Vishnu. It's divine. And between what was and what can be, that tipping point was the divine name. That's how the whole philosophy is built. Since he uttered the name Narayana, he is a potential candidate for Vaikuntha, says Vishnu Dutas. The Yamaduta said, since he led a life of sin, he needs to go to Naraka, you see. But then divinity won, because divinity chooses the aspect, the perspective, the paradigm of what can be. And they said, we have trust in this chap because he can be a lovely divine person because he spoke the name Narayana. And that is the trigger for us to understand he can be a Vaikunthavasi. And guess what? Their trust was not in vain. Next 10 months. Bhagavatam does not say, the moment I accept Narayana, immediately went to Vaikuntha. No, that's all childishness. Yeah. The real realization, the real flowering of divinity happens in wisdom, jnana. And the tipping point came when Ajamila realized that there are some people who have accepted me for what I am. There are some people who are willing not to see what was. They are willing to see what I can be, you see. And that brought in a transformation. In a second, it was not a process for him to get rid of his habit of drinking or habit of all those nasty habits he had, which is nasty as per Bhagavata Dharma. For spiritual life, he immediately went to Haridwar. 10 months, he was completely changed from a beast of habit, broke open the shackles of his past, and with the faith in what can be, which was reinforced by some divine beings, those great sadhus from Vaikuntha, the Vishnu Parshadas, he lived a life of a possibility thinking. He understood what was is dead. I can bury it. And to put a strong words of Swami Vivekananda, bury it, spit on it, keep going. You see? And that's what he did. And that's how powerful can be, talk here, can be. Vis-a-vis, what will happen to me, which I don't know. Because the moment I ask a futuristic question, the mind jumps to compare it with the past and tries to extrapolate the past. Will I be okay? Immediately the mind says, I was not okay for 10 years. How will I be okay? But can I be okay? That's when Vishnu Parshadas are knocking our doors. Will I be okay is Yamadutas knocking my door, because I am constantly going to compare my dead past. And messengers of death is only going to knock the door if I keep measuring my past to extrapolate to the future. So here, the beauty is in possibility thinking. That's Bhagavata Dharma. That's our Sanatana Dharma. You made a mistake, no problem. For you, for your mental peace, I will give you prayaschitta, expiations. Finish it off. Now don't be worried about it. But now, just the physical act of expiation is not enough. Expiation means prayaschitta. We know prayaschitta better than the English term. You do prayaschitta, done. But that's not enough. I am giving you a prayaschitta for you to trigger this can-do thinking. Now I can be better. I can be different. That's the faith our religion has on all of us. It doesn't look us as sinners. It looks upon us as potential divine. You see. Amritasya putra. Putra means a child. A child means it's a potential adult, potential human being. So Upanishad looks at each of us not from our past of maybe mistakes or sins or whatever. It looks at us in the eyes of possibility. Amritasya putra. You have the rightful entitlement because a son has the entitlement to the father's property. And who is the father? Amritatva, the joy, this vast expanse of infinite joy, infinite wisdom, infinite consciousness. That's what you are entitled to. And that's what it addresses, Amritasya Putra. Why? Because our religion is a religion of possibility. It clearly understands past is past. And you learn from it. Don't dwell on it. You make amends, but don't ruminate too much, at least. Rumination, if it helps us. Guilt, if it helps us a little bit to make the amends and get into the possibility thing, good. Anything which helps us to get to a possibility thinking, perfectly okay. But that's only a sadhan. The sadhya, that's only the means. The end is, when do I get into a can? What can I be? Thought. Once I get there, drop all. See, it's such an empowering religion, Sanatana. So that's what I was discussing in that video. Between a self-talk of what I can be versus what I will be. What I will be is a hypothetical question. If you ask me in strong language, it's a worthless question. What I can be is a practical question. It is a question which empowers me. So that's the question, whether we are in spiritual life, or, professional life, social, family, whatever it is. We are a mixed bag. There are a lot of things we made it wrong. There are a lot of things I need to change. I need to make amends. It's very clear to me. I know my own shortcomings. If I allow a little while for me to sit down and reflect, it doesn't take more than a minute to understand my shortcomings. And I already talked about acceptance. Instead of fighting, instead of blaming, instead of saying, because of the Pani Puri wala, I have a stomach upset. It's obviously childishness, right? Remember the Brindavan example I gave last time. So I take responsibility. I said, yeah, the Pani Puri wala was enticing, but I got enticed because I got a little mixed up between the needs, you see. And then I make amends and I get into what is called as the possibility thing. What can I do now? You know, in Malaysia, Swamiji sent us for Nama Bhiksha to plead with people to chant Mahamantra. That's what he sent us to. And you know, in Malaysia, there is a big diaspora of people of Indian origin, very typically Tamil origin. And they have their unique English language, you see. And one thing I learned from them, so beautiful, is in Malaysia, you say, I'm going to land at 9:30. Can I get a ride to the Namadwaar? You know what they will answer? Can. You see. They will always say can. And I used to wonder what a lovely word that is. I know can is also a very fancy dance somewhere in the West. But I'm talking about this wonderful psychological can. And they don't say I will do. They won't say I shall do. They'll say can. And then I was sitting to think, you know, we are all speakers, we have a lot of time between flights and between travels, etc. Why is he saying can? And I thought it's a lovely way because he is looking at two sides of the possibility from his side and the possibility from my side. I can bring a car and you can come to our Namadwaar, you see. So two possibilities from both sides, me and others. That's what it is now, life, I and the rest. And another wonderful can is a can of efforts and a can of results virtually. When I can start working on my efforts, the result can manifest itself. So I think that's what is the secret of happy, fulfilled life. Even when our needs are not met yet, you see. How can I be happy when my needs are not met? Add a small letter called yet. And that's the term I really understood in its entirety to the best of my lights, from this wonderful book called Mindset. It's a lovely book written by a psychologist in the US. In that, she says the growth mindset, the possibility mindset of youngsters is so obvious. I've heard it myself in many of our satsang youngsters when I stay with them. So when I ask them, do you know to play a piano? You know, a typical normal response of a child is not yet. It never says no. And then we teach them, will you play piano? No. Can you play piano? Yes. Yeah, it can. It's not there yet. So there is a big difference between telling ourselves no and telling ourselves not yet. No is defeatism. No is disappointment. No is closed mindset. Not yet is a possibility mindset. Not yet is a growth mindset. Not yet is a wonderful, spiritually, life-giving mindset. Are you filled with love? No. Does it not look disappointing? Not yet means I can. I'm going to put efforts. I am putting efforts. And when I am clear that I am in a journey, I am in a journey towards love, and I can put efforts, it is empowering, isn't it? So almost 90% of my not being there is completely alleviated by I can get there and I know how to get there. I am not yet there. Life is interesting because we have a journey. You see, if you have nothing to look forward to, nothing to work for, nothing to put efforts on, even if we are in the pinnacle of whatever it is, because we don't have something to look forward to, I think life is going to get tremendously boring, like a dry desert sand. You see. So life becomes interesting because there is a journey. Many of us mistake that life is all about just my needs being met. No, life is all about having needs, being clear about the needs, elevating our needs, and then charting our journey towards the fulfillment of needs. That's as much joyous as a need being met, a sense of purpose, a sense of path, a sense of I'm traveling in a path which will take me there, is as much joyous. Some of the mystics in Hinduism, in other places also, don't want this journey to end at all. They don't want a destination. You see, there are some extreme cases like that. And even in our own Hinduism, prema is like that. Amrita, prema is supposed to be Amrita Rupa. It is supposed to be Ananta Rupa. No devotee or lover of the Lord says, I have love, it's enough. You see. They would always say that love is so infinite that I'm still not there yet. Not with a dejection and sorrow, but with abundance and joy. You see, that's the beauty of having a path and charting a path and going in this wonderful path of the fulfillment of needs. It is as joyous. In fact, at times it can be more joyful. Looking forward to something is far more joyous than the actual event itself. Right? Some of the married people tell me the anticipation of marriage was more joyous. And anticipation of getting into a college of our choice was more joyous. Anticipation of getting a job of my liking, my dream job, was more joyous. So don't think just meeting of our needs, what really matters to me. The journey, if I'm traveling with this wonderful paradigm or the wonderful perspective of can, possibility, is as joyous. So remember that, and let's replace the word will in our head as much possible with can. And let's get into this joyous journey of a possibility thinking, where we understand the purpose, understand a grand need, and dovetail our journey towards that need in joy and in abundance. Radhe Radhe.